Alright, I'm going to show you how to set up your car and get it ready to import into Unity 5 and use the Unity 5 vehicle asset to control your vehicle in game mode. So first things I'm going to go through here is show you how I separated the layers. Separated the tail light so I can change out materials in Unity for the brake lights. How I have the calipers in the back floating there because they're not going to be moving with the wheels, but the front calipers are going to be on their own layer. I have each tire on its own layer, and I name the layers so that in Unity you can see what the vehicle's different layers are called. So you have the caliper on its own layer, the other tire another caliper on the front, the rear tires, the back lights, back reflectors on the bottom, the inner backlights, and the last layer is the inner backlight. So that's the layer breakdown. Okay, and then I need to show you the pivot points, which are important to know where they're at, because if you don't know, when you go and try and adjust your wheel colliders in Unity, they might be rotating from the wrong spot, and it'll be easier to demonstrate in Unity, but right now I'm just going to show you where I set my center rotation, or my pivot points. So on this front tire I set it right behind, right at the back of the wheel, because if you turn the wheel like on a real car, it usually turns from behind the front wheel, not the center of the front wheel. And I did this for each of the front wheels. Set that pivot point there, and by default the pivot point would be in the center of the world space here. But if you're going to bring your vehicle in layers like this, you want to bring that pivot point over and adjust it to where you want it to turn on the y-axis, and have it in the center so it rotates correctly from the center point as the car rolls. The back wheel, I could have put the pivot point in the center of the wheel because it doesn't pivot on the y-axis, but I basically did the same thing for it, just to make it easier for me to remember when I'm in Unity where to place the wheel collider. And I can show you in Unity when we get there why it's important and how the pivot point affects the wheel collider and the positioning of the wheel when you actually enter gameplay. So now I will import this into the other part of Lightwave, which is how you would export it into an FBX. I'll do that right now. Okay, here we are in the layout, and everything's still in its layers, and the layers all have names correctly. Are all named correctly. And I can show you that the wheel rotates nicely like I want. spins nice and evenly. If you don't have that pivot point centered, it'll wobble when you spin it on the pitch. So all you have to do from here is export it as an FBX so Unity can make use of it. I'm going to call it Ferrari. Say save. I don't need any frames, so I'll just give it one. I don't need my camera's lights or animations for this. I do want it subdivided. I found that this FBX version 2006-11 seems to work the best. And just say OK. And you can scale the scene up. There was a scale setting there, and it will come in Unity small. I think that scaling it up 10 times is a kind of the standard, but I don't know, Lightwave seems to have its stuff small. Like even if I'm going into ZBrush, I scale things way up so that the brushes work better. So now it's exported as an FBX. I can close that. Go ahead and open Unity. I'm going to make a new project, call it Ferrari Tutorial. I want to select 3D, make sure it's on 3D. Go ahead and click Create Project. Alright, here I am in Unity, and I want to bring in the import the vehicles package here. And I don't need some of this stuff, like any of the aircraft stuff. Just deselect all of that. I'll save space. I'm not going to use any of this stuff for this tutorial, so I deselected prefabs. Everything else I think I want offhand. Give it a minute to load. Alright, there we go. Now your vehicle should be in your standard assets folder, and the prefab you need should be there. I use this car prefab. I'm going to go ahead and make a terrain, which is the 3D terrain. Car's gonna drop down here at the corner. Go ahead and drop it down there. Hit F to get it centered. Alright, I'm gonna show how it drives real quick. I'm gonna press play. working. Alright. Okay, so now I need to bring in my Ferrari FBX I exported, and I'm going to put it into assets. I'm going to make a new, actually I'll do it in Unity. I'm going to make a new folder, call it assets. I'm going to go in there and make a new folder, call it objects. That's just what I prefer. You can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to go back and paste that Ferrari there. And now Unity is importing it. It's basically just unpackaging it from the FBX. It's telling me that I have way too many polygons. It's really not a very game-friendly asset, but it'll work for this tutorial. And if you have a fast computer, it doesn't matter. But you can see it separated the mesh to the car. The wheels and everything are already on their own layers and everything, but the car mesh got separated because it had too many polygons, but that will not affect it. It'll work just fine still. A couple little weird pieces there. Alright, so now what I want to do is I'm going to show you the car asset that comes with the vehicle assets for Unity there. And the important thing you're going to have to change here is the wheel meshes. Going to want to remember, and if you forget when you change this, you can go up to wheel colliders and see it's front right, front left. Don't change these, but it'll let you know so you don't accidentally put front left then front right, rear left then rear right. I say that fast. I'm going to head and drag my Ferrari on the car, and you can see it's tiny there. Like I said, Lightwave brings stuff in, makes stuff small for some reason in other packages. It's just fine. The measurement in Lightwave works out great, but once you bring it into something else, it seems like it's always tiny. So, and this opposite applies too. Whenever you bring stuff from other programs into Lightwave, it's always huge, and you have to shrink it down. So I'm going to go ahead and resize this car up. Try and make it the wheel base kind of the same as. You can shrink the other thing down, but I found that the speed controller seems to get weird and go way too fast. So bringing the car up to the size of this vehicle prefab that the Unity makers put together is your best choice, unless you want to tinker with the code and try and adjust the speed. This just makes it easier. I'm going to try and bring that rear wheel as close as possible on top of the other rear wheel. And I like how that looks right there. That's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is delete the sky car. Select it, press delete. It's going to break the prefab instance, but that's fine. So now I need to select on the car prefab, and it says these wheel meshes are missing. So I am going to put the front right wheel on first. And the front left wheel on. Then the rear right wheel. And then the rear left wheel. There we go, should be fine. And close this up. Don't need to look at that no more. And then I need to go to the wheel hubs. And you can see that it's not on. I'm going to click on X here. And then I want to see it in the 2D view. Then I'm going to place this wheel. These two wheels, two front wheels. These are the wheel colliders. And now I have the radius. I can draw it up. I think 38 might be good. No, 39 was good. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to do the rear wheels now. And line them up as best I can. Change that to 39 also. Worked for the front. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now let's test it and see if it works in game mode. But you could see that the wheels were way out off the car. That's because the pivot points are on the inner side of the wheels and not in the center of the wheels. And it changed the wheels' positions to match this where the pivot points are. See, that pivot point in the center of the wheel has been moved over to where the wheel collider was. The pivot point is back here, and it moved it out to where the center of the wheel collider is. Unity definitely remembers where your pivot points are. And it moved out the front wheels even further because the edge of the wheel collider here is way on the outside of the wheel. And the pivot point that we set up in Lightwave is on the inside of the wheel. So I'm going to just change that, go back to wireframe. I only want to move it on this one axis. I want to look at it from below. I want the orthoscopic view. Zoom in so the dang speaker disappears. You want that speaker there because that's some of the great sound effects Unity's supplied for us. Right on the inside of that hub there should work. It was... I moved it on the X-axis. I'm going to copy and paste it to the other hub, but I want to leave that minus sign there. Hit enter, and that set it in exactly the same spot on the other side. Now I want to do the same thing to the back wheels. Arthroscopic view, rear right hub. Let's zoom in. That's right at the back of that part of the inside of the wheel. Copy this over to the rear left in the minus. Hit enter. Put it in the same exact spot. Now when I enter play mode, the wheels shouldn't be popping out of the side of the card so far. Should be right where we want them. And they're turning right where you want them to. So that's the first part of it. Next I'm going to hook up a camera control script. So I want to create a folder, call it scripts, inside of assets. And I'm going to create a JavaScript, call it car camera control, and double click on it. Here I am in MonoDevelop. And I actually am going to use a script that I found it on YouTube. I'm going to give this guy credit because I like this script, it works good. It's the flat tutorials. Here's the URL to it. The script is actually, I'm not sure if it's on this page, but it's in his car tutorial and you can get to it there. But if you need to, just pause the video and copy all this down, and then press save. And go back to Unity. You can see it's updated here in the inspector. And all you got to do after that is drag it to your main camera. And click on main camera and make sure that the camera control is there. It's there. And then you're going to want to drag your car to the transform here. And bam, it should be working now. So let's see if it's working. Press play. Here we go. Camera's on. Skid marks and everything. See though. I can get it to turn farther here. See the calipers are not calipers to turn with the wheels. I'm going to drag my scene over here. This is a better demonstration of how those calipers are not being controlled yet. And this is something I could not find anywhere on the internet, is how to get these calipers to follow the front wheels. So I'm in play mode and you can see they are not doing anything. They're static. They do follow the car along because they're I did that was to go and change some of the code on the car controller. I double click it. So the car controller, about a third of the way down here is this steering variable, and I use that to get a hold of the angle of the wheel and make it work with make the caliper work with that steer angle. So it doesn't take much. I'm going to make a little edit in the code here. I'm going to call it caliper rotations dot wheel rot y. I'm going to make that equal steering. If it asks to convert your line endings, I just always keep the line endings. I don't know if converting it is a good idea or not. So now we got to go back to Unity. I'm going to copy this so I name it the correct thing. Go back to Unity, and something I should point out is that this is a namespace. So I don't know if I have to do this, but it seemed to make it work. Making the script in the same folder as the other namespace scripts seems to make it so it can actually talk to it like it's supposed to. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to make it right here in this folder. I tried it in another folder, it wasn't working for me, so maybe I was missing something, but it seems to work better if you put it in the same folder. I didn't want it to change it, so I'm going to say use original file. It's not letting me do anything. I don't get it. I'm going to go ahead and close it. Close it without saving. I'll reopen it in a minute. Now I'm going to copy paste my code in here, and there's a bunch of junk from me trying like heck to get it to work the first time out. And I'm just going to delete all this out because I don't need it. And here I've made it the same namespace. It says important. You got to wrap your public class inside of this namespace. And then you want the transform to be on a local rotation, not regular rotation. and you want it inside of the update. And here's our variable that matches steering, and I divided it by 4.5. This is a float, so I divided it by 4.5 so it would turn less. Without this dividing factor, for some reason it way oversteered. It turned on the y-axis way more than it was supposed to. And this was a little bit of trial and error on your tire or your caliper or whatever, and depending on the radius of your tire, that this number might be different. And you're going to have to just trial and error it. It could be as low as 3, it could be as high as 5. It could go lower, maybe higher, depending if it's like a monster truck or a go-kart or something. I don't know what you have, so just know that this is actually, if you have it steering or turning on the y-axis too much or too little, this is the number you play with. So I'm going to go back to Unity. I'm going to open that car controller back up and make sure that my change in there is still there. And looks like it's gone. It didn't save it, so I'm going to put it back in there. It has to be after the steering variable has been changed and clamped. I want it right there, and see, this time it's showing up not in red. I'm going to hit save. I don't know why it's not letting me save. Save you damn thing. Oh, maybe it's because I haven't saved the project yet. This is important to remember to save your scene. I'm going to call it Ferrari. There, now it's saved. Now I'll go back in here and see if it'll let me save it. Did it let me save it? I'm going to scroll down and see my changes there. And does not look like it's there. Again. Try it one more time. Still have it on my clipboard. Keep line endings. So it's not letting me change it here. I'm going to force it outside of the program. I've never had it do this to me before. But I know if I go in here this way, and change it with Word, it'll let me. I think I actually want to hit the save button here and open it with Notepad. because it seems to work better for not wrapping around the code. It makes it more legible. So I'm going to put it right here. Hit save. Let's see how it liked that. Take that, Unity. Bam, and there it is. I'm going to use the original file. Scroll down, make sure the dang thing's there. There it is. Yeah, I don't know why it's not letting me save it, but I got it in there using Notepad. So I'm going to hit cancel, close without saving, and go back to my caliper rotations, and just going to drag it onto my front left caliper and onto my front right caliper. Check, make sure it's there. There it is. There that is. Caliper rotations. So now, hopefully the dang thing turns like it's supposed to. And there it is, turning. Alright, back in Unity. So, I know you've probably noticed my wheels are really shiny. That's because I didn't change the smoothness of it here. If I click off of it, you should be able to see. Actually, I'll do it from over here. Under Objects, go back to my Ferrari, front left wheel. You can see I turned that smoothness all the way down. I'm going to turn down the smoothness on the actual tire tread there. Now the blacks don't match up, so I'm going to go in here and change this color darker. I like that color. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to use that same black on the other 4 tires. And it's under right here. Turn off the smoothness, change the black. Go to the back tire. Turn off the smoothness, change the black. Go to the last tire. Turn down the smoothness, change the black. There we go. That should work pretty good. And there, it's set up pretty good to roll around. Alright, so the next tutorial I'll show you how to set up the change materials on the brake lights and how to set up the headlights to be turned on. And after you see how we change the intensity of the rear lights when the brake button is pressed, then you'll know how to make the headlights turn on and off by a button if you want. So until that video is done, thank you for watching.